All right, we're back with another Tesla reaction video. Today, we're checking out how the UAW strike against the big three affects Tesla. And spoiler alert, it's not good news for the big three. It's kind of great news for Tesla because this accelerates their demise. There's no way they can reach these 40% wage increases. But let's check out what they have to say.
Take a closer look at the automakers, the U.S. automakers, in light of the UAW strike. The beneficiary, perhaps, would be Tesla. Steve Wesley, founder, managing partner of the Wesley Group, sat on the board of Tesla at one time.
Steve Wesley
has a good view of what's going on here. The UAW strike is expanding now. You know, when we look at this now, you have about 25,000 workers striking, and they are expanding. Your thoughts on this part of it? It's going into more into GM and Ford, less into Stellantis at this point. But the point is, the strike is on until they make a deal. How big of a deal is it, and when does it become a big deal?
A big deal right now.
Look, I think it's already a big deal.
It's already a big deal.
We all want to see American workers earn higher wages. But it's come in at a tough time for Ford and GM, and here's why. First, Ford and GM are both struggling to sell just 100,000 units in 2023 here. And that's compared to 2 million units for Tesla. So they're supposed to be catching up here. They're at less than 5%. So if those numbers drop down, that.
So obviously he's talking about EVs here. He didn't specify, but yeah, Ford and GM EV sales are abysmal, and they're already losing huge amounts of money on each sale. Ford is negative like 20 to 40% on every sale of their EVs. And then with this strike happening, and then the employees wanting more money, so they're going to make even less on their cars. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm curious to see if the UAW, like the union people, know what's happening. Like there's no way this is going to be good. If they do get the money, then GM and Ford and Stellantis are going to go bankrupt. So there'll be no jobs. So I don't understand what they're doing. They're kind of like pushing to get GM and Ford to go bankrupt. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think they're really looking at the numbers here. If they were, I think they would kind of rethink the strike. I don't know. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Hurts. Second, Tesla's triggering a global price war. And I think we've seen it. Tesla's had 6 cost reductions this year alone. General Motors, Volkswagen, Ford, they're all trying to keep up. But remember the big picture. Not only is Tesla selling a lot more electric vehicles, but their net margins are 12.9%. Compare that with 6% at GM, 4% at Volkswagen, 2.4% at Ford. If you're raising rates or costs at those companies, that's coming at just the wrong time. Now, the good news here is for consumers. Tesla sees an advantage. They're seizing it. The Chinese, and we'll come to that, BYD are doing the exact same thing, driving costs down. EVs are going to be cheaper than ever before, but it's going to put the squeeze on automakers with high cost structures. So GM and Ford need to be careful. Yeah. This will be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because the President of the United States, who's a union-friendly president, I mean, I don't want to put the politics in there, but, you know, maybe it's cutting the CEO's salary or something because he's marching with them, sort of implying that they should get more. And I know they were asking for 40%, came down to 30%. But if these automakers are really barely making the line, Elon Musk, for example, said they're marching themselves straight into bankruptcy if they give in to these higher wage demands and a 32-hour work week. There's a real disconnect, isn't there? Quickly.
Yeah, something's going on here. Even Elon said, I didn't see the tweet, but I guess he tweeted, they're marching themselves into bankruptcy. So it was 40% and they lowered it to 30%. That's interesting. Maybe they're starting to get those numbers in and realizing that it doesn't really make sense. So
I have so many questions for you.
Look, there is, and Elon may be a little crazy, but on that one point, he's probably right. Again, we want to see American workers getting paid more, but in industries that are struggling to be competitive and break even, and make no mistake, the entire global auto industry is going all electric. It's a race to see who can get quality EVs to the market most quickly at a good price. Tesla's done that a little better than any one heretofore. Chinese are putting pressure on. So the American automakers are going to need to get more efficient more quickly. I just went through the gross margin numbers or the net margin numbers, but when Tesla is at 12.9% in gross margins, GM, Ford lagging quite a bit, something's got to give here. So I'm hoping that with the new battery production and so on, other efficiencies, GM and Ford can bring margins up and be competitive, but they're going to have to kick into a higher gear sooner rather than later. And the Chinese are coming.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, Steve, I had on a bull-bear debate recently. It was really about Tesla. I'd love to ask you some poignant questions, and if you could respond to them, because I think that, you know, the first was Tesla. The argument was Tesla makes batteries. Tesla doesn't make batteries. Does Tesla make batteries? Yes or no?
Yes.
Have they made a battery?
Yes, they make batteries. Yes.
There's not a black and white question here. What they do is they partner with the CATLs, the Panasonics, and the LG Chems of the world. But increasingly, they've taken battery production in-house. They have a cost advantage over virtually everybody else except for the Chinese. And that is part of the reason they have such high gross margins, which is great news. Second, they're the masters at selling OTA or over-the-air software services. Okay. That's great. And third, they lead the world in robotization. So that's what's giving them the price edge. The Americans are going to have to keep up. The Chinese are coming quickly. This market's, it is fascinating. There's going to be a restructuring of the global auto market like we've never seen before.
Are you concerned about Tesla deliveries going forward or market share when it comes to the other automakers, particularly in China?
Well, nope. Absolutely. And look, I'm an American. I want to see American companies win, whether it's Tesla, GM, or Ford.
Well, in China,
right now, here are the numbers. Tesla has 21.7% of global EV market share. And again, EVs are what matters. Every auto company in the world is going all electric. BYD, a fairly close second at 16.2%. There's a huge drop to the other Chinese companies and Volkswagen. So you've got to get EV production up and going. You've got to do it profitably. And BYD is really right on Tesla's heels. They make a good car, low cost.
Margins
aren't
great.
Batteries. Though. That's going to be the real smackdown. But there's a lot of concern about whether people want to drive a Chinese car, not just because they're a competitive country, but because cars are now filled with IoT devices. And do you want a car that could be, or frankly is, listening to you? I think a lot of people are going to think twice on that one.
So yeah, BYD, they make a lot of electric cars, but a lot of those electric cars are these tiny $4,000 death trap cars that are lumped in there. And I think they also lump in their hybrids as well. So, and their margins are tiny compared to Tesla's. And yeah, once you lump in all that stuff, I want to know like their pure EV sales and Model 3 equivalent and above, not these like $4,000 tiny smart car like EVs. Like I don't really count those, but they do in their numbers. And so you constantly see like, oh, BYD's on their heels, but they count those tiny golf carts and they count their hybrids. So it's kind of hard to compare when you don't know the exact numbers on like the Model 3 style and above. And also their margins are a lot lower than Tesla's. So they're like razor thin margins as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes to valuations, I mean, I know Tesla, it has a lofty valuation. I mean, we've had guests on who think it's worth $25, basically, which seems significantly an undervalue for a name like Tesla.
Ridiculous.
What kind of stocks do you think can have some upside potential in the world of autos, here or abroad?
Well,
besides
I think there's
Tesla,
three to look at right off the bat. First, let's get real on Tesla. Most profitable auto company in the world, growing 40% year over year. They'll be over 100 billion this year. They're trading at a 7 or 8x multiple. That's not bad for a company with numbers that look more like a tech company than an auto company. Give them credit. If you're looking at a bet in the auto market going forward, I think you'd have to take a long and hard look at BYD. Keep in mind, they're not only a leader in the Chinese market, the world's largest auto market, They're already selling a lot of vehicles in Europe, South America,
What name
Mexico,
was that? I'm
Israel.
sorry,
They're
Steve. What
executing.
name was that? What name was that you said you have to take a look at?
BYD.
BYD.
BYD. Yeah,
BYD is
that's the
right
one.
on
That's the one
Tesla's.
Buffett likes. Okay.
It's the
And what
one
else do
Buffett
you
likes.
think is probably?
I think you've got to give a close look at Hyundai. The Koreans have really jumped to the fore, and Volkswagen.
Hyundai.
Those are the major competitors, if you will, Europe, Korea, China.
I don't know about
I
that.
see. In the meantime, the UAW strike. Any final thoughts for GM, Ford, and Stellantis? And any big picture trends, whether people are trying to shop for a car or anything you want to add?
Well, look, my advice to them is get this settled soon. And you may feel like it's a victory to have higher wages, and I'm all for it. But at some point, you've got to keep an eye on gross margins. And as you said, whether it's cutting senior executive staff or making assembly lines more efficient, that's going to be the key to winning in the future. Today, and here's one last fact for you, Tesla can make their Model Y in 10 hours. That is compared to Volkswagen that takes, and Ford and GM, closer to 30 hours to roll a car off the assembly line. We've got to put old world thinking behind us. Labor needs to understand this as well. It's all going to be about robotization, higher efficiency, higher gross margins. That's going to be the path to winning. I just hope an American company is the one who can figure it out.
Steve Wesley, I'm so glad
Yeah,
that you're able to
that
come
was.
and join us today on
I
the
agree
show.
with
Thank you so
Steve
much.
Wesley. Almost everything he said there. The oh my gosh, the strikes. It's such bad news for like the workers think that they're gonna get 30% more, and it's not that hard to look up. What's the gross margins for the on cars? You just Google search. If you're making razor thin margins, or in the EV side, you're making you're losing money on every sale. I just don't see how they could see that it's a good idea. But I know a lot of people in general don't believe that EVs are the next big thing. They think it's internal combustion engine cars are going to be here around for a long time. They have no idea that the EV revolution has already started, and GM and Ford are way behind. Competition is coming. They've been saying that for 10 years now, and we still haven't seen any competition come. So, except maybe BYD in China. But other than that, Ford and GM and Stellantis are probably going to go bankrupt. A lot of you guys watch this channel, Stephen Mark Ryan, and, others. We've all been saying the same thing, right? They're going to go bankrupt, before the end of the decade. But this accelerates that. At first, we thought it would be Tesla that does it, but they're, digging their own grave. So if the smartest man in the world, one of the smartest men in the world, Elon Musk, is like, guys, you're digging your own grave here. I think they should listen to that, because it's pretty obvious, if they get 30% more, and they do the 4-day work weeks, and they're already struggling behind Tesla this much, and the future is in electric vehicles. Ask anybody with a Tesla if they would ever go back to a gas powered car. It's like 99% of them say they would never go back, because it's so much. It's just a better product. It doesn't even take out like the environmental stuff and all that. It's just a better product. It's like, with smartphones, like imagine going back to whatever phone you used before. Say you're an Android user or an Apple user. Whatever phone you used before that, Motorola, or like some like a dumb phone. That's what electric cars are like smartphones. And then gas powered cars are like dumb phones. Once you get a smartphone, it would be crazy to go back. Like, how could you go back? There's like a tiny percentage of people that use old phones, flip phones and stuff, but it's that much better of a product. And it's kind of hard to explain that to someone who doesn't drive an electric car. But as soon as their costs, they're at cost parity now. So we've had our Model 3 for about 5 years now. We've had zero maintenance on it. We spend about $30 a month in electricity for the car. We have two Model Y and a Model 3. $30 a month. We both drive them every day. There's no maintenance. It goes 0 to 60 in like 4 to 5 seconds. 0 to 100, 4 to 5 seconds. It's the safest car in the world. It has over-the-air updates. It drives itself. Like, there's so many things that's better than the ICE car, but it's inevitable, right? That's what's going to happen. The better product is going to win. And these companies are in huge trouble if they don't figure something out soon, because even Jim Farley, the president of Ford, is like, we're gonna go bankrupt if they get this. So I don't know. Maybe there's something in there with the CEOs taking a huge pay cut because they get paid ridiculous amounts of money. So maybe they could take a huge pay cut, and the upper management can sacrifice and take some big pay cuts to help alleviate this. But other than that, they're screwed. So we're here to kind of watch. And I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep buying more Tesla stock. I bought some more last week. I thought when the numbers came out, the stock would drop, but it's kind of staying steady. So I buy more Tesla stock every single month. I've been doing that since 2018. I've built up quite a good amount, and I'm going to continue to buy more Tesla stock every month. So it's kind of fun to watch what's going on in the world in terms of the automotive industry. It's kind of cool. So if you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I also have a Patreon if you want to help support me. I'm going to start posting exclusive videos over there to Patreon real soon. So head on over there, support the channel, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.